You are listening to the Earplug Podcast Network, a Fanboys Inc. production.
If you're passionate for what you love and you're serious about it, when you see our cameras at the show, then we want to talk about it. Fair weather fans need not apply. We seek nerds that are true.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man who steals salt, Mr. Dean Cain.
All right, man, how are you?
Great. How's it going, everybody? All right.
Dean is here. I am so thrilled.
I'm also thrilled. Listen to that. Hello.
Yes, look at that. Look at that. This deep Superman voice.
I don't have the deepest voice. That's just the way it is.
That's a special touch.
No, I don't do that. Oh, you bad man. I don't do that. I don't have that whole thing at all. How's everybody doing today? I've met a lot of you already over at the table, so nice to see you all again. It's a pleasure. I've had a really good time here. I happen to like casinos, so it's nice in the downtime. I played a little poker last night after,
Any good results?
worked out well for me. And then, of course, there's the inevitable, can you see the cards? And
X-ray vision. Come on.
I can't, just for the record. I would have a much better poker record if that were the case. But I've had a great time here. I love Connecticut. I shot a movie here last year, which was great fun. And it's nice to be here. So,
We're thrilled to have you.
yeah.
So, the crowd here, fans, they want to get to know you a little bit better.
Fair enough.
And so I got a couple questions. I'm sure everyone's going to want to be interested in. First of all, I want to
The
go...
thing with the donkey, not true. So I'm going to go on record. We all went to Tijuana once, right? I'm kidding.
Let's go way back to the beginning. One of the things that made me get really excited that you were Superman is that for once, it was a big deal for me back then, finally, a Superman of Asian descent. That was a big deal for me. For those who don't know, I'll let Mr. Cain get into it. What is your biological makeup?
I'm actually quarter Japanese, and that's, people confuse that with every other thing under the sun, which is great as an actor. They're like, what are you? I'm like, What do I have to be? What should I be? So I'm a quarter Japanese. My given name is Tanaka. I was adopted when I was 3 years old, and it changed to Cain. And so I'm a quarter Japanese and English and Irish. But it's great as an actor to be able to play. I played Hawaiian. I barely ever played Asian. It's interesting. But you played lots of different roles. It was funny when I first got cast in Lois and Clark, and the internet was just beginning back then. For those of you who don't know, so it was '93. Somebody didn't like the fact that I look Asian, and my brother brought it to my attention. Someone said, "We want Superman, not Sushi Man."
That's cold-blooded.
Yeah, it was. Actually,
not racist at all.
No, my brother said it to me, and we laughed for about 26 years, so we're still laughing at that. I think it's, that didn't bother me in the least. I thought it was funny. I didn't realize that I was an Asian-looking kid ever. I never even thought about it, because I don't see that. I don't see anything. And a friend of mine said, when I was probably 9 years old, he said, "Hey, Frank's sister was wondering if those Chinese kids moved out." I was like, "What Chinese kids?" And he's like, "You, man." I was like, "Oh, I'm Japanese." I didn't know anything. So I look back at pictures of myself now when I was a kid.
Now your brother was also adopted?
Oh yeah, we're biological,
Okay.
exactly the same, except he's smaller. He's 2 years older and a little bit smaller, but a great guy, and he loves it now because people are like, they think I'm the older brother, so he gets his own victory now. But he's a musician. Some of you might know him and seen some of his stuff. By the way, does anybody know his story at all? You hear his story at all? Yeah. I helped him. I think I helped him, right?
Here we go.
I helped him propose, and then she accepted.
Poor Jen.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think I helped you, right? That was helpful?
It was very helpful.
Okay, it's a good thing, because
It's really helpful right now, dude.
But
right?
he was Batman, and she was Batgirl, was it?
Yeah.
In Atlanta.
In Atlanta,
In front of
yes.
like 9,000 other superheroes.
Yes.
He dropped to a knee and she said yes. I think she bowed to peer pressure. He was in a very public forum, so he didn't want to,
And I want to make note, last I checked on YouTube, there was like over 90,000 hits, and I swear to God, it's probably my mother going, I want to see Dean. I want to see Dean.
It was very cool. It's one of the cool things about these cons, and as you get to meet people, and it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. Like, you got the girls, the Vixens back there. They're fantastic. The cosplays. I'll tell you what, the cosplay is better than a lot of the stuff. I would say the majority of the stuff that we see on set. It's unbelievable. So kudos to you guys.
I want to bring up, just because you brought it up, thank you again for that help. And I briefly mentioned to you earlier this morning, as I was hosting the costume contest, there was a couple dressed as Batman and Batgirl. And I thought, well, this is oddly familiar. And then the gentleman dressed as Batman got down on one knee and proposed to his fiancée.
He saw that on YouTube.
And that fiance's name happened to be Jennifer, just like mine.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is weird. I suddenly became Deacon Cain.
There you go.
But
How'd that feel?
I'd like to introduce you to the couple right here.
Oh, you're kidding me? That was you guys?
It's you guys. I didn't even know they were coming.
That's amazing. Congratulations. You said yes to him?
I know.
Yes, that's neat.
It's really nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Congratulations,
Wow,
guys.
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you for making me feel
That's amazing. That's wonderful.
That's
That's one of the
it.
special things that happens here.
He was
Very
drugged.
cool. What's that?
He was drugged.
He was drugged.
And I'm still drugged.
There you go.
You are high on life, sir. High on life.
Well done.
That's right.
Very well done.
I'd like to talk about, in case other people didn't know, that you were a professional athlete.
Yes.
Prior to acting, if I'm mistaken, for the Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo Bills.
No? Nobody? Yeah. All right. Shame. Yeah. What do we got, like, Pats fans in here? I hate you guys.
Listen.
Pats are so good. I have such respect. It's amazing.
Listen, for the next 45 minutes, full Bills fans.
No, exactly. Buffalo, it's tough, man. It's tough being a Bills fan. Four trips to the Super Bowl and no victories in a row. I would have been on those squads. Actually, I was the year before was when I was playing as a rookie and I got injured. It's wonderful. I don't have to. The question doesn't. As an athlete, that question can just lag in your brain. You can say, "Oh my gosh, what if? What if?"
Right.
I was there. I know I could play. I was very comfortable in the system, so that was wonderful. But I went back probably the first year I was doing Lois and Clark, and I was an honorary captain. So it was myself and Jim Kelly and Bruce Smith, and we walk out. Dan Marino's on the other side. We're playing the Dolphins at home. I'm in cities in the regular clothes and the whole thing. And do the coin toss and everything. And we got whatever. It was a big game. And as the game is going on, and it's really exciting to be on the field, obviously. And this was for the divisional championship, and game's going on. And Andre Reed, who's in the Hall of Fame now, catches a short little out right in front of him on the sideline. Tries to turn up, just gets blasted, just thumped right there, short of the thing. He gets up, and he's hurting, and he just kind of stands right next to me for a second. I could tell, I knew what he was doing. He was trying to shake it off. And then it was kind of quiet, and Buffalo went out to punt. He just goes, "Hey man, how do you get into that acting thing anyway?" Got it. No question about it. I mean, it's a painful sport, but it's still my favorite. I was watching some games last night. One of my closest friends is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It's a mixed crowd. Yay! One of the Vixens, she can stab you. So watch it. So he's Jason Garrett, who's one of my closest friends. He was my quarterback in college. I went to Princeton here in Jersey. And Jason is the head coach there, and they're looking good. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I already bet on the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl this year. So we'll see what happens. The Patriots didn't do anything but get better. Yes, I'm on camera. Cowboys are going to win it this year. But the Patriots have got better this year too. So it's tough. I gotta take my hat off to Tom Brady. Bless him. That dude is killing you. You don't like that? Oh. What are you, a Falcons fan?
New York team.
So you're a Buffalo fan, because there's only one team that plays in New York.
All right.
I mean, the Giants and the Jets, they're the Jersey Jets, right? New Jersey?
I'll give you that.
That's it.
You're super. But I wanted to ask, in regards to your transition, Were you already acting during football, or was this like a cold transition from football and you thought, I gotta do something?
No, I grew up in Malibu, California. I grew up with a lot of kids who became very famous actors. When I was young, Chris Penn, Sean Penn, Rob Lowe, Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Holly Robinson, all of us sort of grew up together. We all grew up together. And I guess our parents were more or less involved in the film industry. My dad was a director. I was a junior at Princeton, and my dad was producing and directing a film called Young Guns, which starred most of these kids. And the thing that's always interesting about this is I got to watch them make a lot of mistakes. And if you look at the careers of those, not their careers weren't mistakes, but some social mistakes they might have made outside. So I watched them make some mistakes. I mean, Charlie Sheen's made a couple mistakes. Sean Penn might have made a mistake. Rob Lowe, I don't remember if you remember the Democratic Convention. I mean, there's a lot of things. Those guys made some mistakes. It was interesting for me to watch them as young men go out and do their thing. And young men, Holly Robinson, she's perfect. She didn't make any mistakes ever. But it was interesting to watch that happen. And I knew that I wanted to go into that industry when I was watching my friends at Princeton do their summer internships in New York, 80-hour weeks in a suit. I was like, New York summer. I was like, this is not fun. And then I went and visited, my dad with a set of Young Guns. I'm like, this is fun. This is way better. And I always enjoyed that sort of lifestyle. I was raised on sets, so I knew I was going to work in the industry. I just wasn't sure how I was going to go. I wanted to be an actor, but I didn't really know what that meant. I'm still a writer. I was a writer then. So for me, it was an easy transition because I grew up in it. My dad was a carpenter. I know how to work, with wood. And so I understood the film world, and it was a really easy transition. And we still work together all the time. I do most of his writing behind him. So it's a good way to make a living, but it's a tough one. I'll tell you that, because as soon as you finish a job, you're unemployed. So you got to go get another one. There is no tenure, I promise you.
Is there a particular role that you think best paved the way to your role as Superman?
Well, it's interesting, as a young actor, you're trying to find your way. Listen, I did 40 commercials before I ever did any guest starring roles in anything. Just stand there and run around and smile, and that's it. I mean, the auditions for a commercial for guys, like doing commercial auditions, it was like, okay, 6 people, okay, all you 6 all come in. Okay, now take off your shirts and eat some Doritos and pretend you're at a party dancing. You're like, okay. And that's how you do it. That's literally commercial auditions. So it's rough. I did about 40 of those commercials, and then sort of transitioned into I guest starred in a show called Life Goes On. I played Hawaiian. It was funny because I come out of the water, and that song Zarathustra. Dun 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 dun. Right, I'm walking out of the water with my surfboard in slow motion. My dad was watching the episode with me. Maybe the hardest I've ever seen him laugh in my lifetime. So that was a big pivotal role to get a guest starring role in something. And then I did an episode of A Different World where I got to be it was funny, I was a racist Italian. A Japanese dude playing a racist Italian. It was great. But it was,
saw that. I was going to bring that up late night. I'm watching Nick at Night, and it's Different World, Dwayne Wayne. I'm like, okay. That Dean Cannon.
That's like that famous Mulvaney, but that Dean Cannon. So that was my second guest starring role.
Looking all 17 years old.
Darn right, I was playing a college student at 24, okay. 23, whatever I was. And then the role that did transition me to go ahead to play Superman was I did 4 episodes of Beverly Hills 90210. And that show was so super popular at the time. It's crazy. And it was really interesting to be on the show. And to be running around with Shannon Doherty and Luke Perry and Jason Priestley, and I learned something really important. I'd grown up on sets, but as an actor coming out of someone else's show, I remember I had done 3 episodes or 2 or 3 episodes, and I hadn't met Luke or Jason, but they had seen the episodes I had done, and I walked on set, and then Luke came walking up to me and said, hey, nice to meet you, pleasure, Luke. I love what you're doing with the show. Really appreciate you being on here and everything. It really made me feel welcome, and I was like, wow. That's awfully welcoming to a guest star actor, so I made sure I did that, and I've done that on every single project that I've ever worked on since. It's a really welcoming thing. It makes you feel good. So I learned how to be a professional in that sense as a known actor, bringing other people on. That role, though, was so high profile that it allowed a lot of other folks to see to see me out there, and so I had the chance to go and play Superman. Now, they were very concerned about my age when I was auditioning for Lois and Clark. I was 26, and I do look young, and so that was one of the biggest concerns they had.
It's that Asian blood.
It's the Asian blood. I like it. I'm hanging on to it. No question. No
I
question.
remember you played it on Rick.
Rick, that was it. Yeah, and I still get that call because she used that fake French accent calling me Reek. Those things never go away.
I'm a closet dino.
My brother, the first guest star role I ever had, my character's name was Kimo Watanabe.
Okay.
My brother will call me that now. I was sitting across the room and I hear, Watanabe. That's it. He'll be like, oh, Kimo. Like he just, it sticks. You can't pick your own nicknames. It just doesn't happen.
So I'll save the Lois and Clark stuff for the fans. I'm sure a lot of people have some Superman questions.
Sure, right.
Fast forward, post-life after Lois and Clark, you did Ripley's, believe it or not.
Yes.
Yes.
4 years.
That was. It was really unique to see somebody not creepy host that show.
Jack Palance. That was really interesting. I had a deal with Sony at the time, and I just finished Lois and Clark, and I didn't want to star in another series right away. It's exhausting. You shoot a series, you're shooting 16, 18 hours a day, every day. I go on Supergirl now, and I'm on the sets and doing things. And Melissa, that poor girl, is all day, every day. And
You feel for her?
I do feel for her. I mean, she started at 27. I was 27 when the show started for me. But it wears on your time, and you can't do anything else. There's literally nothing else you can do. Ripley's, believe it or not, they came to me and asked me if I wanted to host it. I said, no, I'm good. That's fine. And I said, they came back and said, no, seriously, consider doing this. And I said, all right, if I were going to do Ripley's, believe it or not, here's how I want it to be. I want it to be like I'm the curator of this weird place, and I'm at this weird museum, and I'm learning things the same way the people in the audience, the people who are watching television will learn at the same time and enjoy it, but be respectful of the strange and unusual things and people we're going to meet, and not make it spooky, because I wanted it to be more educational and fun. And they agreed to it. And so my company made the show. It was for 4 years. It was great because I didn't have to work nearly as hard, and I got paid a whole lot more money. I mean, isn't that the goal? Isn't that one of the Work smarter, not harder.
Superman got bank.
Yeah. I made a lot more money on that show than I ever made on Lois and Clark. It's true.
And playing Superman, you played, I guess, the ultimate good guy, the ultimate superhero. But you also had a famous role playing a not-so-nice guy by the name of Scott Peterson.
Yeah, hey, he's resurfacing these days. Has anybody seen the show? I haven't seen it yet, but they've done a really great job. You know, like the OJ trial, they're doing such great jobs bringing these real-life dramas to television again and really delving into it. So it's interesting. So Scott Peterson, I turned that role down 4 times. And they kept coming back to me, and I knew that we looked similar. I saw these physical similarities. And they kept offering to me, and I kept saying no. My agent was like, I don't know, man, if you take this, people are going to be running around chasing you on the street with pitchforks, you know? And so I kept turning it down, and finally I was talking to my dad, and I said, they keep offering this to me. And he said, well, do you think you could be good in it? And I said, actually, yeah, I think I could do a really good job with it. And he said, well, are you an actor? And I was like, yes, sir. Go to work. So I took it and did it, and that was a really creepy role. We were shooting it as the pretrial hearing was going on, so we were learning information as we were filming, and he hadn't been found guilty, so we played what we knew happened, and we saw a lot. I saw so much footage on this guy, the interviews and things he did, and he was creepy. It was creepy. I always said all you had to do is, he was like a bad actor. Because when you're in an interview situation and you have certain facts and certain phrases and things you have to get out there, you're taught that, sort of media trained, if you will, and you're taught to say these things. They do it with films and everything else. They want you to say a certain line or something like that. Well, he had done that apparently in his brain, or done some research, and then he would ask questions that had nothing to do with it, and then just stumble his way onto his talking points, and it looked really, really bad. So I just said, what was the secret to playing Scott Peterson? And I said, the secret was just to be a really bad actor, and I'm great at that.
If you Google Scott Peterson, you'll notice there is a resemblance.
Yes, there is. There's definitely a resemblance. But he's in San Quentin, and I'm over here with you guys. And he ain't never getting out.
Well, we're gonna do questions later, but I want to move on fast forward to someone more current or somewhat recently. You recently did a series on VH1 called Hit the Floor.
Yes.
About the basketball team. You played Coach Pete.
Coach Pete Davenport.
Now,
Fun.
I gotta tell you, everyone, I am a really secret. I love like really raunchy nighttime soaps. And
I don't think that's such a secret. Rick. It's not a secret now.
If you ever watch, have a chance to watch Hit the Floor, ladies out there, Cain, he has some fun on that show.
Yes, the character is he's a head basketball coach for basically an NBA franchise kind of thing, and it deals with all the sordid stuff that goes on around there.
I'm watching, I'm like, God, Dean, God. You want her again.
Well, I tell you what, the show ended up moving from VH1 now to BET.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the fourth season starting at BET this year. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, well, it's been weird because there's so many different shows now. You can do 10 episodes of this and 11 episodes and 10 episodes instead of a 22 episode arc in a regular network show. It's great for actors and it's great for filmmakers because you can do things like House of Cards or whatever it happens to be, and that's what the place that Hit the Floor fits into. And it's a great young beautiful cast, and Kimberly Elise, who I play opposite most of the time, she's an amazing actress and
Your daughter?
great fun. No, Kimberly plays my girl.
Oh, okay.
My daughter is played by Taylor Page.
That's right.
Don't be looking at my daughter. She's beautiful. She is beautiful, without a doubt. The show's great. It's going to be on BET. Moves to BET this year. We'll see what happens. It's weird that it changed networks. And the show's going to change format a little bit. Check it out. VH1. VH1 was good, and now it's BET.
And recently, you just did a convention appearance with your former co-star, Terrificon.
Ah, yes.
Which I believe was one of her first, or
It was her very first.
Very first.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that you guys will appear together at future convention stateside?
Terry hadn't done one, and I reached out to her. Australia is obviously a heck of a trip to make, and I was going there. Friends of mine were running the cons, and they asked me if I wouldn't mind reaching out and talking to her, and so I did, and she said, yeah, it worked out. Here, she got a daughter who's in her freshman, sophomore year in college, and she's sort of an empty nester, and she just finished work, and she said, sure, you turn it into a vacation. So if you're gonna go out there, we did 2 different dates a week apart. So, she said, yeah, and it was the first time she had done it. It was really cool. I hadn't seen her in 20 years, and I'd seen her once in 20 years, and we finished the show in '97, and she had a lot of fun, so I think I could probably talk her into 1 or 2 out here in the States.
Because Dean, I want to meet Terry.
Uh-huh. All right, that's not creepy, right? Where's your wife?
She's working, and I'm there hanging out with Superman.
That's on film. That's on film. You never hear it up.
How you doing?
Thanks. Do I have to be there for the do? I'm kidding.
No.
Yeah. So Terry, I think I can talk her into something.
I think we all look forward to meeting.
What I'm hoping is going to happen now is, all these reboots of shows. We ended in the weirdest place in season 5 of Lois and Clark, or season 4. Picked up for season 5, but we ended up not being able to shoot it because Terry got pregnant, and that ended the show. End of season 4, baby got delivered to the house, and that's it. And it's like, and then the show's over. And it was like, whoa. People always ask me what the deal is. I have no idea. I don't know what was going to happen. I don't know what happened there. So I'm hoping that we could do something, when we haven't caught up with these characters in 20 years. It'd be a lot of fun to catch up with them and see what's happening. They probably got kids, trouble, half human, half superhero. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Then I'll spin that off into another show, and then.
You bring this up, and you said this recently, and it became, I guess, somewhat viral about your interest in a possible season 5. Now, in this era of, I guess, streaming, and Netflix, and Amazon, Hulu, we're seeing new shows, new content that you don't have to go on major networks, which I guess powers that be willing could be an avenue to launch a future Lois and Clark season.
Sure.
So. My question is, I'm sure many people's questions are, is this something you brought up, that you might have brought up to people at WB or something? Is this something you care to bring up as?
Well, Warner Brothers itself, it owns anything super related. So it would have to be something they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't sold Lois and Clark. It's not, you can't watch it, on Netflix or anything like that. So Hopefully they're getting itchy and they want to do something like that. I will sit down and talk to the execs with no question about it. And Terry's interested in doing it too. It'd just be fun to wrap it up, you know. And again, we've never seen, you know, we've never seen Lois and Clark 20 years later. We haven't seen it. You look at all the...
That kid's like 20 years old now.
Yeah, think about that. That's what I'm trying to say. Think how much fun that could be. Not one, you gotta have a couple.
That's right, Super Pops.
Yeah. I'll be Supergirl's dad. I'll be everybody's dad. That's no problem.
Well, I know everyone, I definitely look forward to, hopefully, Crossfingers.
I'm hoping.
Possible future Superman, Lois and Clark season 5. And,
Even if it's just 6 episodes, I'd be happy with that.
yeah, sure, just to wrap things up.
Have to. I just wanna know what the kids are up to.
Yeah.
No good.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them went bad. Ooh.
I'd like to see, possibly, I guess, older Clark Kent possibly being editor-in-chief of Daily Planet.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, rest in peace, Lane Smith,
Lane Smith.
no longer with us.
Great
Played Perry
actor.
White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great guy, what a great actor. I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
Sorry to see him pass, that was very sad. But a great Perry White.
Mm,
He was a great Perry White.
yeah. So, anyone got questions for Dean? Q&A time, anyone?
Well, the
Married couple.
The new-
or
the new room.
newbie couple, yes.
With all the, you know, the bit parts that they throw out of these big Marvel and DC movies, have you been approached, or do you think it'd be any of the Justice League, even as a cameo?
You know, it's interesting. It's an interesting question because, you know, you look at obviously Stan Lee's in every movie, and I've blessed Stan, and it's always fun. It's a good little tip of the hat. That's kind of what they've done on Supergirl, you know, with myself and with Helen Slater and even Linda Carter, and it's just fun to have everybody come in and do that. I wish they did that because I'm a big fan. The Marvel films tend to have a little more sense of humor than the DC films. So the DC films that might take away from what they're doing, I think they're a little bit too heavy-handed. My 2 favorite superheroes films recently were Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are great fun. So that sense of humor, you can get the drama, you can get the serious moments, but that sense of humor I think is so important. And I think it's severely lacking in the current, you know, Superman, Batman franchise. It's awfully dark. It's darker than I like. But if let me put it this way, if Marvel called and said, "Hey, we should do a cameo in this," I'd say absolutely. I wouldn't mind knocking Deadpool down for some reason or something. It would be just funny. It would just be funny. Thank you. Unfortunately, they just lost a stunt girl on Deadpool, so I know it's a heavy thing and it's tough. My dad directed a film where they lost a stunt person, a stunt gone wrong. It's a really tough thing. It weighs on my dad to this day, so that's a tough thing for all those guys involved. So my thoughts and prayers are with them and especially her and her family. It's tough.
Lois Perry, Angrygeeks show. First, best line to Lois and Clark was when you looked at the little girl and said, "My mom made it."
Yeah.
Second, this is the 4th convention that we've crossed paths at. What do you collect? Do you collect? Everybody has to collect something. What does Dean Cain collect?
I'll tell you what. One of the things I really like, I like those little pop things, those pop people. And there's the Funko Pops.
We need a Dean Cain version of that.
Well, I like the one where it's
show.
there you go. Good, a whole bunch of shows. There is no Lois version of that, but there was no Lois Lane, so maybe they'll get on that for Terry. But I like the one. I like the one where it's the gray version of Clark Kent with the hat. You rip it open, it's got the Superman S. That's my favorite one of that. I have that one, and I have one other one. It's a superhero. Anybody care to guess? Hazard a guess which one I have?
Iron Man.
You already know. Yeah, exactly. Who said it?
Who was
It's
it?
not Iron Man.
Oh.
It's Deadpool. I can't help it. It's just so dang funny. He kills me. That first Deadpool was amazing. I hope the second one is as good. I really hope so. They changed directors, so that can change everything. So I hope that's not the case. The tone of that thing was hysterical. I've seen it probably 15 times.
How about sports merch? You collect sports merch?
Sports memorabilia and stuff. I have a fat head in my house. One fat head. You guys know this fat head thing? I got one. It's Jerry Rice catching a football, and it's in my hallway. And I was a defensive back, so the last person in the world I would like is a wide receiver. But he is my favorite player of all time. However, it's in my hallway, and he's reaching out catching the football, and every time I walk by in the hallway, I just go. I shut down Jerry Rice every day.
Thank you.
I just want to know what your favorite color is.
My favorite color is definitely Superman blue. There's no question. It really is. Yeah, it's been that way for a long time. The colors of the chairs, this thing, it's everywhere. I love it.
We did it just for you.
I appreciate it. Yes.
No.
Actually, the blue in my suit is really like the chairs you guys are sitting in. Yeah. All the way, let's talk about suits for a second. I wore spandex, like just lycra, just tights. Melissa, her suit is so cool. I sit there, we're on set, and I'm like, it's her cape. I'm like, it's like rubbery. But she's like, you keep touching myself. I say, I'm sorry. It looks so cool. She got the shoulder pads in there. I didn't get anything. Nothing. I mean, nothing. And these things look so cool. They look really cool. They've come a long way. I have some suit envy, I'll be honest.
Listen, that was just pure Cain.
That was all Cain, yes.
Pure Cain.
It helped me at 27. 27 helped. It helped.
The suit, your suit, went through a bit of an evolution in some
Yeah, the cape, it was really the cape. Damn cape. It was so hard to figure out how to do that and make it fly and float. I think they digitize hers when she flies sometimes.
Yeah.
It's cheating. We couldn't do that back in the day. And they would take, it's one of the reasons my hair was shellacked to my head was we took a thing called an air mover. And it looks like a big bullhorn, but it's just massive. It was on this, we had our special effects guy, rest in peace, he's passed, but he was like a mad scientist. So he would take this air mover thing and it would blow. It sounded like a truck. It was like, and it would just blow at me, and they would try to get the cape to move just right. Some people had monofilament attached to the back of the cape, and there was all this stuff going on with the cape. It was a nightmare. And not only that, but we were on set, so they would start the thing and they would move it up like this, and if the back of it got anywhere near the ground, it would pick up all the dirt and pebbles, and they would just shoot me in the face. So I'd be up there trying to fly. So it wasn't glamorous at all, and they've got things down to a science now. They do a better job in it, and I have special effects envy too. There's a lot of envy going on.
I remember, I guess one of your earlier suits, the scoop neck opening of your shirt was so low, this low, that your S was almost like your stomach.
That's where I wear it now.
It's very, but so as the series evolved, it got better, and thankful for that.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things, you gotta just find your way as things go on. There weren't any of the superhero shows at the time to sort of compare it to or take notes from. We were kind of standalone at the time. Now every other show is a superhero show. It's incredible. I love it, but yeah, it's just a whole different world. If you'd have told me then that there would be this many shows now, I wouldn't have believed it.
Anyone else questions? Joe?
I remember, I think we were on Law and Order one episode, and you guys got away with it. I mean, you were wonderfully evil. I was wondering, playing bad guy, a lot more fun playing good guy, or?
You know what, bad guys are fun. So I was on Law and Order SVU, Special Victims Unit, not SUV as sometimes it's called. Richard Belzer, I think, makes fun of it. He's like, yes, it happens inside an SUV every week. No, it's Law and Order SVU, Special Victims Unit, and I did play.
It's an honest mistake.
But I played a pretty sick dude, and I did get away with it. It was fun. I mean, the fact, if you told me Ice-T was ever going to arrest me for murder, but it was great fun. Those guys are great. Mariska Hargitay's great, and it was fun to get away with it because it doesn't happen very often on that show. And it was just creepy. It was creepy fun. So bad guys are great because they have a real, their motivation is very straightforward. And I like a bad guy who can enjoy being a bad guy. One of my favorite movie villains of all time was Hans Gruber. Hans Gruber in Die Hard, man, he was so good. Alan Rickman, rest in peace as well. He was so great. Oh, it was amazing. Oh, everything about it was just so good. You were saying, and everything. Hans Gruber, it just goes on Hans. It's just so many things. Great movie, great Christmas movie. Bring the kids.
It is a Christmas movie. I believe it.
That's Christmas.
That's right. I give it to, although I wasn't able to put it on the list I did for the CW recently, they wouldn't call it a Christmas movie, but I do.
Besides yourself, who is your favorite Superman?
I actually put myself at number 2 behind Christopher Reeve. I grew up watching Christopher Reeve. I remember when I think of Superman, that's what I think of. Like my first thought is like Christopher Reeve being Superman. I sort of played him. I played the Christopher Reeve version. And Lois and Clark, Clark was the character, and Superman was the disguise. That's the funny thing. Is that
You reversed what he did.
exactly. I didn't like the geeky Clark Kent. It used to make me nuts when I watched the movies too. I was like, just man up, will you? And, I guess that's what they wanted to achieve, but it worked on me. I was a kid going, no, come on, do it. And that's why it was fun to play Clark as Clark. And I like Superman comfortable on Earth. I like him in that sense. And the new version again, where he's this alien and maybe has a Jesus complex, trying to figure that. I don't like that. That's just too heavy and too dark. I like the sense of humor that Christopher Reeve had. It was like he always had a secret. Like he knew he'd win, and he had but he was just so moral and wonderful. I loved his version. So that was definitely my favorite version. I never had a chance to meet Christopher Reeve. It's something that I regret terribly. He was injured while I was shooting Lois and Clark, and I do remember the media coming to me wanting a response, and I felt that was the weirdest thing because I didn't know the man, and it's obviously a life-altering situation, and I just felt less than worthy to make a comment about it. I just, so I kind of just said it's an absolute tragedy, and don't talk to me about it. Talk to his family and friends. And, but I do remember thinking, man, I didn't think he was going to pass, obviously. And I remember when he did pass, I was like, I really missed an opportunity to go and meet him, and I really wish I had. That would have been. It's one of the things I regret. I don't regret much in this life, but I do regret that.
What villain did you want for the show that you didn't have on the show?
You know what? I didn't know a lot about the villain. I wrote a couple episodes, so we got to bring a couple fun villains in. I can't think of one. I mean, there's probably 900 people here at this convention who would do a better job of answering that question than I. There are people here, a lot of people know a lot more about Superman than I do here. It's incredible, yourself included. I can't think of one that I would have wanted that I didn't. I'm glad I didn't have to meet, what's his name? The guy who ends up killing Superman.
Doomsday?
Doomsday, yeah. I'm glad I didn't meet him. I'd have beat him, of course, but.
Well, the show was on when the book came out.
Yeah, exactly. So it was interesting. They talk about the death of Superman. Social media can be awful and can be fantastic. I like to concentrate on the fantastic things. And for the first time, and I've never seen it, I probably should have, is I finally saw Nick Cage in the Superman suit.
Oh,
That was trippy stuff. But I was like, wow. I had a couple drinks afterward. I'll be honest.
we don't speak of that.
You probably know this, and since you brought this up, they killed Superman because of your show.
Why? What I do?
No,
not because of you.
No, because
they couldn't do much with the character. Walt Simonson, they used to have these big editorial meetings at DC. Like, what are we going to do with the character? And they were always like, well, let's just kill him. And finally, they were, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's kill him. So that's what they did. It had nothing to do with you, sir, but that's what they did.
well,
If I'd have had a vote, he'd have lived.
they were talking about marrying off Lois and Clark, and they said, well, we can't do that because the WB has a new show. So,
ABC.
ABC has a new show. What can we do that's kind of landmark and iconic other than marrying off Superman? Let's kill him off. And let the show concentrate on the romance of Superman.
No, I disagree. They should have had him have kids. I still want to know. I want to know who these kids are. I want to know what's
Well, he
going
does have a
on.
comic today, which would have been perfect.
There's a comic book they have today?
Yeah, John.
That's what I got to get.
John Kent.
John Kent? That's the kid's name?
That's the kid's
It's named after Dad?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like it.
And he actually teams up with Bruce Wayne's son. It's awesome.
I like it. Hopefully he kicks his tail, but whatever.
You said.
Have you ever watched any the original series of Batman, black and white?
Oh, Batman?
Yeah.
Batman, I watched
Sorry,
Batman and
Superman.
Of course, I watched all of George Reeves' version. He was my favorite Clark Kent. George Reeves did a great job with Clark Kent. He was great. That whole, I even think that Funko Pop thing is much more, it's the George Reeves.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so
I love that. That's my favorite. So my favorite Clark Kent was George Reeves' version, and my favorite Superman was Christopher Reeve, and I sort of try to take a little bit of each one of them into my character.
You
And
did with the glasses.
oh yeah, that's just natural. That's but it was just fun. It was I love that. I even saw the 1948 series with Kirk Allen, so I had a chance to see all really cool stuff. I'm glad I got a better suit than Kirk. No offense.
It was wool.
I know.
Wool.
We shot in Burbank. There's times where it was 110 degrees out, and I got that. If you sweat in that suit, you ain't filming. Not gonna film. You can't have a sweaty Superman. It doesn't work. So yeah, I like my suit better than that one at least, and I like it better than George Reeves too. So I guess there's been some suit progress. Temperature control.
Anybody else?
How did you like playing Jack the Ripper on Smallville?
Ah, yes, good old Curtis Knox, aka Vandal Savage. I enjoyed it. That was fun. It was really interesting because those guys, you know, they did 10 seasons, and I think I was on season 7. They really had it down to a science. They were doing their things. Michael Rosenbaum was totally insane. I love him. He's a great guy, but he was so funny on the show. I saw him recently. We were in Europe, actually, doing the con in Europe, and you know, he's got his hair and everything. He's just a whole different guy. He's happy too. But they had it down to a science at the time, and they were really cranking through. It was just fun to be in that world again. It's great to be a bad guy, too, a semi-bad guy with good intentions. And there was a scene we were shooting finally where young Clark was, I can't call him Superman, right? Because he never wore the suit, no fly, no suit, right?
No tights, no flights.
No tights, no flights. So he had to super speed through this scene and do something, and of course when that happens, the rest of us have to move slowly and do this sort of a thing. So we were rehearsing it, and Tom was going through. He was like, shoo, shoo. I was like, Tom, we don't do the special effects, the sound effects. That's not act like you've been there before. No. No, it was funny, and it was interesting to watch him have to do all the special effects and things like that. And it's the same thing now on Supergirl, you know, to not have to be the one ripping the sparks and things and stuff. It's easier. It's easier and it's fun, but it was interesting playing the character and being on that. And once Christopher Reeve had been on the show on Smallville, I felt there was an obligation, and certainly out of respect, to say if the sort of leader, the de facto leader, has done it, the rest of us should certainly follow suit.
Anybody? Yeah.
Are you gonna do any more TV shows? You've been on like Today Show, I've seen on TV.
Did you see the dating game he did?
That's the thing.
On the Today Show?
Yeah, you're on TV a lot.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Again, I'm having my morning coffee. I'm like, what the heck is he doing?
File that under bad decisions. No, that was fun. My mom got on there. My mom's the worst person in the world to set me up. I'm single, by the way. That's the thing. I'm not married. I'm of a certain age. Thank you.
How are you? I love that age. I'm just happy to be in the same room with you. Thank you.
What's your name?
Tia.
That's Tia.
Hi, Tia. Nice to meet
How are
you.
you?
I do. I host the Today Show quite a bit. I'll host the Today Show this week. Thursday for sure, maybe Wednesday and Thursday. I gotta fly back to LA today, and I gotta fly back to New York, so that's it. I gotta check in on the kid, make sure he's not doing anything wrong. I'm sure he is.
Are you gonna keep doing the show?
Yeah, well then I'm gonna host the entire week of the 28th at the 9 o'clock hour. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy that. You know, the world has changed. The world of television has changed quite a bit, and at first it could be a film actor or a television actor, or you couldn't be both, and you'd never get on TV and talk about, you know, politics or anything like that. And I tend to break all those rules, but it's just changed completely. So I don't have a good time hosting. When I did Ripley's Believe It or Not, they were like, "What are you doing? That's career suicide." I was like, "What are you talking about?" You know, the rules. I don't like to follow the rules in that sense. So I just do things that are interesting to me, that I find fulfilling and fun. When I'm doing the Today Show, it's great fun because I'm interviewing, you know, so many people that I admire and like, and some that I agree with, some that I disagree with. So it's good to get into those conversations as well. It was nice to have my son, you know, meet Ed Sheeran. That was kind of cool. What guy couldn't have been nicer? You know, he was so nice. And Darren Criss was so nice. And these guys that are, you know, that my son enjoys, and he would happen to be with me at that time. The show was fun. I enjoyed doing it. I'm going to do some more of it. And we'll see. They keep talking about whether I want to have my own show.
That's what I was thinking. Just not Jerry Springer style.
Springer gets down though. He goes at it. No, I wouldn't do Jerry Springer style, but I enjoy that. You know, one of the things for me is that I think that we're so divided. When you watch the news and things, it seems as though the country is so divided because I think this 5 or 10% on this side and 5% on this side, they get all the attention. Everybody talks about that, but I think there's 80 or 90% of us that are probably somewhere in the middle, and I'd maybe be interested in doing something where we talk some common sense and try to bring people together instead of divide them. I think that's what we're trying to do.
I think that's our time right now. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Mr. Dean Cain.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Make sure if you haven't, please visit Dean at his booth.
Yes, stop by.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation, found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.